Now, despite its name, the Tower of London is actually more of a castle. It was founded at the end of 1066 and was initially used as a royal residence before being used as a prison from 1100 until 1952, which I mean is a long ass time. Now, I could totally bore you with the history of exactly what happened to the tower, how it used to be a treasury, an armory, and weirdly enough, a menagerie at one point, but I'm not going to, because I guess I just did. This intro is a mess. What is up, you guys? Hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host, YEOMAN Hassan, and welcome back to another video. You know, when you got sent to the tower, it was literally over for you. Say goodbye to your wife, to your mistress, to your kids, and your bastards, because you probably have some. The tower has seen a lot during its lifetime, meaning it has nothing but stories surrounding it. These are the top 10 scary Tower of London urban legends. Starting us off at number 10 are the Ravens. Whilst doing my research, the legend of the Ravens was proclaimed the most infamous one, so I thought I'd just start with that one. Apparently, ravens live inside the walls of the tower, and as we know, ravens can symbolize death or bad luck. Legend has it that if the Tower of London ravens are lost or fly away, the crown will fall and Britain with it. It was actually taken so seriously that the tower employed a raven master whose sole job was to take care of them and make sure there were at least 6 ravens inside at all times. Can't be too sure, you know, those pesky rascals will just fly away. Now, rumors have circulated that they have their wings clipped so they can't fly, and yes, the raven master does trim their feathers so they can still fly, but not super far. During World War II, most of the ravens in the tower were killed due to bombing raids, but 2 survived, Grip and Mabel. But Mabel flew away, and that depressed the hell out of Grip, who eventually flew away as well. The small incident was reported in the British newspapers, and soon after the story broke out, the decolonization of the British Empire started, which confirmed the legend to most people. Coming in at number 9 is the bear. Since the tower used to be a menagerie at one point, we know that countless exotic animals were kept within its walls. Apparently, some of the animals still haunt the place, and for some reason that really doesn't surprise me. At this point, nothing really surprises me, if we're gonna be honest. Either way, guards at the tower have heard the roars of lions at night echoing around the tower. Some have seen the ghosts of horses galloping outside on the cobblestones with glowing red eyes, but the scariest one had to be the bear. In the 1800s, E.L. Swift shared that a sentry at Martin Tower was terrified by this huge bear-like figure that appeared from underneath the door. He shot his bayonet at it only for the bullet to go through the door and hit nothing at all. The bear was supposedly massive, with his mouth fully agape and dripping with saliva. The ghost was salivating. Why is that so weird to me? Now, the sentry literally dropped to the ground in fear and died 2 or 3 days later. Over time, people believe the bear was just the devil in disguise, which I kind of agree with. I don't remember the last time someone just died from seeing a ghost. At number 8, we have the key. Now, you'd think it'd take years of planning like the show Money Heist to pull off stealing something from the Tower of London, but it turns out it does not. Back in 2012, a man somehow breached the walls of the tower and stole the only set of spare keys to the tower from a sentry box used by the yeoman warders. Now, the warders are the ceremonial guards of the tower and have locked it up every night without fail for the last 700 years. But somehow a man entered, and although he was caught trespassing and escorted off the premises, he still got the keys. So someone somewhere in the world has the only other set of keys to the Tower of London, and we have no idea who it is. But they're sitting on a lot of money, you know, the crown jewels, etc. Just saying, you can liquidate those assets. Filling at number 7 slot is the KOHINOOR diamond. Can we just have a moment of silence for the fact I will never see a diamond of this size? Thank you. The tower houses the British crown jewels, and that includes the KOHINOOR diamond, aka the largest, most cursed diamond in the world. This 186 carat diamond had a curse that only affects men. Hindu descriptions of the diamond said, "He who owns this diamond will own the world, but will also know all its misfortunes. Only God or woman can wear it with impunity." The name is Persian for Mountain of Light, and it went through many hands in its time. Shah Jahan, the emperor who commissioned the Taj Mahal, had it, but his reign ended with his 4 sons torturing and killing each other. Apparently, it was initially close to 800 carats, but a Venetian gem cutter reduced it to 186. 800 carats? What does that even look like? That's huge! Sorry, I just imagined. It was in the hands of many local rulers, almost all of which met with bloody deaths. Finally, in 1849, a treaty was signed and the stone was given to Queen Victoria. But the story doesn't end there. On its journey to England, there was an outbreak of cholera on board, so locals in Mauritius threatened the crew and told them to leave the port or they'd attack. A storm then occurred lasting 12 hours, and then finally, it somehow made it to the royals. As a result of the curse, no male heir has ever worn it, and you'd probably keep it that way. It's for the best. Now at number 6 is Anne Boleyn. So a bit of a history lesson for you. Anne Boleyn was King Henry VIII's second wife. This Henry was a fat-ass one with 8 wives that he either kept divorcing or beheading. You know how men can be. Now fun fact, we actually did a performance of the Tudors and Henry VIII when I was in year 6, and I played Jane Seymour, his third wife, and the person he leaves Anne for, so I mean, I feel like everything just came full circle, you know what I mean? Honestly, it didn't, I just wanted to plug myself. Either way, by October 1533, Henry accused Anne of adultery with 5 courtiers, including her own brother, and treason for apparently conspiring with the men to kill him. None of it was true, but of course Henry was ready for his next wife, so he had to get rid of Anne somehow. She was sent to the Tower of London and decapitated in May of 1536 at age 35. Since she died in the Tower, it's literally a given that her ghost would roam the grounds. Like, this is no surprise to anyone. There have been countless sightings of her ghost, the most infamous story coming from a captain of the guard. One night he saw this light flickering inside the Chapel Royal, which was suspicious since it was locked. He tried to find the source of the light by climbing a ladder and saw inside the chapel an entire procession of ladies and knights dressed to the nines. The leader of the event was Anne Boleyn. Another sighting occurred in 1864 when the lieutenant confronted this white female figure. When he stuck his bayonet into the figure, he was horrified to see the weapon going through the figure instead of touching flesh. That's what a ghost is, Lieutenant. Study up. Coming in at number 5 is buried treasure. If X marks the spot, I'm ready with my shovel metal detector, my friends. I'm in need of some buried treasure, let me tell you. I've just done way too much online shopping and I'm broke. Anywho. So when Oliver Cromwell became Lord Protector of England back in 1653, he told the Tower's lieutenant Sir John Barkstead to hide 20,000 gold coins somewhere on the grounds. People have searched the premises and its every nook and cranny for the treasure, but all have failed. 15th century 20,000 gold coins, I wonder how much that is in pounds sterling today or even Canadian dollars. I have an overdue England trip coming up anyway, so I mean, you guys will know where to find me. Lamau. There, with my metal detector. At number 4 are the Yeoman Warders, also known as Beefeaters. Established in 1485, these people, as previously mentioned, are the ceremonial guards of the Tower. Their job entails living on the premises, locking everything up every night, guarding the gates, as well as the royal prisoners. All warders are retired members of the armed services, and in order to get the job, you had to be a former warrant officer class 1 or 2, it doesn't matter, and they have to have served in the regular armed services for at least 22 years. As of 2018, there are 37 Yeoman Warders and 1 Chief Warder, and of course we cannot forget about the Raven Master. The Tower of London is actually a little village in and of itself. It has a pub, a church, a private doctor's surgery, and more, so most of the warders and their families live inside the fortress. On one hand, I feel like living at the Tower could be very cool, but on the other hand, given how many people have died there and the ghosts that plague the grounds, I don't know if I'd want my kids just running around running into Anne Boleyn's headless ghost, you know? I think that's what you need years of intense therapy to get over as a child. Filling at number 3 slot is the armor. So one of the Tower's most popular exhibits is King Henry VIII's old armor, and I don't know if it's the most popular because it was Henry's or because it's possessed by an evil-ass ghost. Probably the latter. Either way, over the years, several different people have described this feeling of complete dread going through their bodies as soon as they enter the chamber being where the armor is kept. One guard claimed he felt like he was being crushed alive as soon as he stepped inside. Others have said it feels like a demon has just come out of nowhere and is trying to suffocate you. Some have described it as this invisible monster trying to strangle them to the point they could feel this grip around their neck and legitimately could not breathe until they left the room. One guard shared that he was assaulted by a ghost that wrapped his cloak around his neck and tried to strangle him. He escaped from the chamber, but there were red marks all over his neck, meaning that was real. Now at number 2 is Traitor's Gate. This is the Tower's most famous entrance and was constructed way back during the reign of Edward I. When the arch was first built, it was brilliant. Workers were pleased, Edward was pleased, but when they came back to it the next day, they found the arch completely collapsed. Furious, the king ordered them to build it once again, and they did, but again, the archway somehow collapsed. You think it was an issue in the construction or foundation, but locals reported seeing the ghost of Thomas Becket. He was murdered in Canterbury a century prior, and people saw him still in his bishop's regalia, removing 1 brick from the arch at a time. This man has patience, I'll give him that. 1 brick at a time? How much time do you have? I mean, he's in purgatory, so I mean, all the time in the world, I guess. Either way, when King Edward was told the news, he ordered his men to build the arch again, but this time he renamed it to St. Thomas's Gate, and surprisingly, it was still standing the next day. And finally, at number 1 are the 2 princes. In the early 1220s, that sounds really weird, but I'm just gonna go with it, King Henry VIII expanded the main castle by adding the bloody tower, even though at the time it was called the Garden Tower. Flash forward 200 something years, we have King Edward IV. When he died, his two sons Edward V and Richard, Duke of York, were sent to live in the Tower of London because their uncle Richard III was gonna look after them. He then snaked everyone by taking the throne for himself, and the boys literally vanished in 1483. Now, there are many legends surrounding what happened to the boys. Most just claim the boys got murdered in the tower, and I'd agree. In 1674, some workmen were destroying a staircase in the White Tower, but they ended up finding the bones of two children underneath. They were believed to be the two princes, and the bones were transferred to Westminster Abbey. By 1933, the bones were exhumed, and tests indicated they belonged to kids the same age as the princes. Regardless, it's said that the two boys haunt the bloody tower. Back in the 15th century, two guards saw the shadows of two small figures just running down the stairs. They were holding hands and wearing white nightshirts. You guys have heard me say this so many times before, I just hate ghost kids. Kid ghost, not a thing for me. And that is it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I'm pretty sure I've been to the Tower of London, I believe, on a field trip. Have I? Was this field trip orchestrated by my parents? I think so, actually. Either way, let me know if you visited the Tower of London. What do you think? Would you want to go after everything I've told you? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I'm your host, YEOMAN. I'm gonna continue wearing whatever the hell I want, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!